Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Lamlan Moyo coming to you live. Today, we are going to be looking into um, the most important course, which is SHIREP course. Right. So, as we get into this training, ladies and gentlemen, let's brace ourselves and have fun. All right. Well, straight to the point. Straight to the point here. We would want to actually say why exactly are we finding ourselves in a situation where we need to learn occupational health and safety. Occupational health and safety has got branches there. It talks about safety, which has got a lot to do with how people are working at environment that is free of hazards. Because hazards, when two or more hazards collide or something like that happens, we end up having incidences. And incidences, they tend to result in injuries, death, psychological impact, loss of work, loss of body parts, a lot. The list is endless of things that can happen in issues where health and safety is not taken care of. So, for us here who are sitting around the table to say, let's discuss safety, health, environment, representative situation, we are saying it is important that each and every workplace out there ends up having a SHIREP, being a person who actually stand in between employees and employers to try by all means to have a common practice that will end up resulting in no incidences at all. And if there are no incidences at workplace, then people are safe, which means the safety is fine. People become healthy, which means the health aspect is fine. And also the environment where people are working becomes also well taken care of. Hence, we are saying SHIREP, which is safety, health, environment representative. So you are a representative who is a go between employers on the other side and employees on the other side. And you are standing in between here, trying to balance the situation to say, what are the employees looking for? They want to be safe, they want to be healthy, they want to work in an environment that is okay. At the same time, what does the employer want? Employer want us to comply. Employer want us to work in a safe environment, because if we don't comply, the employer is gonna lose money. Because if people are going to be hurt at work, they're gonna claim somebody must take up the bill, right? If somebody has to go to hospital, if somebody has to stay at home being paid because he got sick, he got injured at work, or somebody needs now to go and permanently stay at home because maybe he's on wheelchair or he's physically unable to attend to work. When all these things happen, when all these things happen, we would want to know if we have somebody who can be able to stand between and look into it. So basically, we are going to be looking at the roles and responsibilities of occupational health and safety representative. We are also going to be talking about what is the legislation saying about it, because there is always a legislation that talks about these things. We are also going to be looking at the differences between occupational health, occupational safety, and occupational environmental management. So that's basically what the course for SHIREP entails. Right. Moving on, the purpose of us being here to do SHIREP is because the first and most important things is that we can categorize our job into three classes. One of the classes is that we review effectiveness. So, SHIREP most of his or her job is to review effectiveness of health and safety measures, right? Effectiveness of health and safety policy at workplace, right? Uh, Effectiveness of the committees that you form as health and safety people and staff. So you will see that there are a lot of things that you will be doing under reviewing the effectiveness of the whole occupational and health and safety measure or bundle, right? So that's one of your jobs there. Another job that is on the shoulder of a SHIREP is to identify hazard. Basically, it's the performance of what others would want to call HIRA, because the identification of hazard does not just end there. You have to identify hazard and then do risk assessment on those hazards as well. So at the end of the day, when we combine it, we just call it a HIRA, which is hazards identification risk assessment, right? So it's a process that involves identifying hazards first in their categories or whichever way you're doing it, and moving on to the next thing is to try to weigh the risks that are associated with these hazards, and then move on to come up with control measures that can be put in place so that the hazards will not have effect on employees and other traffics that we find at workplace. So, in other words, that would be the second category of your job is to perform HIRA or risk assessment. So, she reps at your workplaces, your job is to actually perform your HIRA from time to time. So it is quite important to understand that segment, to say you do have three major categories of things that you are going to be doing, or the purpose of you being appointed as a safety representative. The last segment is to investigate incidents, right? So those are the three major segments. You would have you reviewing the effectiveness of the whole package of occupational health and safety at your workplace. You would also want to know that you are supposed to be attending to identifying hazards at your workplace. You would also want to get to understand that you sit down at some point after incidences have been reported, for you to actually be part of the team or be part of those who are going to be investigating these incidences. So in winding up this segment, we would then say the major purpose of appointing a SHIREP is for these three items to be performed, right? Moving on, you would see that there is a process that is supposed to be followed when you are appointing an occupational health and safety representative, whom we are calling SHIREP today. There is a process, right? The process is well explained in the Act, which is the Occupational Health and Safety Act, an act that will continuously refer to when you are somebody who is now working in occupational health and safety. Actually, everyone at workplace, once you are employed, you need to understand this act, because by law, most of workplaces need to display this act on notice bodies or on places where people are actually able to access, right? So once an employer realizes that you now have quite a number of employees at your workplace, you are supposed to appoint a SHIREP, right? Of course, the law would then tell you that if you've got up to 20 employees, then you should have what? You should have a SHIREP, right? When we are counting these employees, you also as a director or CEO, management, etc., need to be included in the number, right? You need to be included in the number as well. So once you are all going up to 20, then you need to get a SHIREP. If you get the words properly, it says up to 20, which basically means that if you have employees less than 20, it's not exempting you from not getting a SHIREP, right? So you can have a sheriff up to one sheriff up to 20 employees, right? Once you have 20 employees, you get to get a sheriff. Then now that differs now how the numbers will grow, right? So one sheriff for up to 50 employees if it's a factory or it's a high risk area. One sheriff up to 100 employees if it's a low risk area, such as maybe offices and stuff like that. But many a times when Department of Labor comes to visit, they will still stipulate that get a sheriff, even if you have got less than 20 employees, because of the importance of this job or of this part of work. Hence, they end up pushing to say, we understand the law says this, but for you to function properly, you need to have a sheriff. So once you have understood that, it's very important. We are going to dissect the act one by one on our next clip, but for now let's look into those situations here. Now the employer must meet with the trade unions to negotiate the appointment process. That is if the employer has got, or the places of employment has got um, trade unions inside, because remember, with trade unions they would want to be part and parcel of most of the decision that takes place at the workplace. So you need to also include them. Okay. You would also need to understand that there is in writing that now we are going to be appointing a particular person on this position, which means there should be appointment later, right? However, this particular person should be appointed from the full-time employees of that particular workplace, which means that the process has to be where you actually ask these employees to go there, whether supervised by trade unions or supervised by an external person or by you as management, whatsoever, the way you feel that is going to be free and fair. You ask them to appoint or to actually vote for their own representative. It's very important that we stick to that. We are, of course, starting to find that some companies are actually employing a sheriff straight from interviewing process, right? Of course, they might call that person a sheriff, but that's not a sheriff. That's some kind of an assistant safety officer, assistant risk manager, or risk officer, whatever you want to call them. That's not, according to the law, a sheriff, right? Even though they might call that person a sheriff, you might be moving around at your company being called a sheriff because they appointed you as such, but legally you are something else. A sheriff, by terms of the law, is somebody who is actually voted for by his or her fellow employees. They select him or her from their own meetings, and those minutes of those meetings will be very important to have them somewhere. Then the person once has been appointed, means selected from the group of employees, the name is forwarded to the employer for a formal appointment. We need to understand that this is not a job, or we would not then say this is a job where you are actually employed and we should expect extra money to be placed on your salary because now you are a sheriff. That would be a good idea if they do so. But remember, when these type of jobs come with a reward, performance becomes a bit different. That is why the law wants it to be a job or work or a task that is given from a person who is voted for or selected by fellow employees. And this job or this task need to be performed during work hours, right? So if there are any task that a sheriff needs to do, he wants to sit down to do investigations, or he wants to do hire, or there are meetings that are supposed to be performed or done, that sheriff need to do those work during office hours. We are not then going to say no, work first. When you are done my work, after work, then do your sheriff job, or come weekend and do your sheriff job. We can't do that because of how these people are then employed or are actually appointed. So you would want to have that idea in terms of certain sections in Occupational Health and Safety Act that stipulates how a SHIREP is appointed. When is a company expected to have a SHIREP? What are the duties and the rights of a person who is in the SHIREP structure there, right? For now, I hope we're still going way ahead without any problems. Right, moving on to the next part, we would want to talk about a situation where these she people, the safety, health, and environment representative, once they are many, two or more at workplace, there is need for establishing what we call occupational health and safety committees or she committees, right? Now, what exactly happens here is that in some companies where there is a safety officer, after realizing that he or she has appointed quite a number of people in the safety department, such as occupational health and safety representative, first aiders, fire marshals, and so on. Uh, in those situations, they would then be able to what to make those changes, right? So the functions of occupational health and safety committees are, in essence, trying to bring you together as people who are involved in occupational health and safety, right? You are being brought together to actually meet as a committee, right? So the occupational health and safety committees, it's when we realize that we now have two or more um, SHIRAPs, and we are saying now, guys, let's formulate ourselves to become a committee, right? So we'll then have all the SHIRAPs and everyone who is involved in occupational health and safety, and then we have management also representing management on that side. So you would want to have that mixture of management and workers. So on the workers side, you have got the SHIRAPs, right? Then on the management side, you have particular managers who will be representing management. To make the thing to balance, it's better to have equal number of people from management and SHIRAPs. Or in other matter, to make it even more better, is actually to have more SHIRAPs than managers. For instance, let's say the company has got 5 managers, right, and 2 SHIRAPs. For you to formulate the committee, you can't be bringing 5 managers and these 2 SHIRAP into the board and call them this is a committee. That would be a wrongly constituted committee here, because it would be biased towards management. It's actually better for it to be biased towards employees and not biased towards management. So you'd rather have one manager versus 2 safety representatives, and so on and so on. You wouldn't want a situation where you would have more safety, I mean, more management than the safety people there. That would be the composition of these health and safety committee. Right. These committees, their job is actually to make recommendations to the employer on health and safety matters. That's one of their major jobs, is to make recommendations. Remember, each and every a safety person, SHIREP, will be collecting particular data, information, complaints, and so on from wherever you are working from your stations. And at a particular date, at a particular time, you guys are going to meet to have a committee. When you meet to have a committee, that's when you are going to be making recommendations there. You are there to discuss incidences, to find out that, but what exactly is causing incidences? Why people are becoming ill? Why people are dying? Why people are getting injured? Or even why are we having near miss? which basically means something could have happened but did not end up happening, right? You also would want to have other functions that can be prescribed in your own meetings where you would say, guys, let's discuss this and that, this and that. So, ladies and gentlemen, my lesson today ends here, where we have spoken about why do we need SHIREP, how to get a SHIREP at work, and how to constitute uh, SHIREP committees. We will meet again as we continue with this second lesson.